we have a really fun Halloween little thing that I thought I would pull together for you. Um, before we get into it, I wanted to kind of reintroduce myself in case there are some of you that don't know who I am. Because, honestly, a lot of people do know who I am, but there are some people that, when we start talking about CakeFu, they actually ask, oh, do you do cakes too? And I just, oh, well, I guess I don't know if I'm getting myself out there enough to let people know that I do cakes. I'm not just an interview host or whatever. So, yeah, I'll tell my story a little bit just for those of you that may not know me yet. Yeah, my name is Amelia Carline, as you can see down there. I have been cake decorating for, probably about 13 years. About that, yeah. I started kind of by accident. It was, my sister was getting married. I ended up helping my aunt work on her cake. It was just kind of a, hey, jump in and do this. And so I did, and it all just went from there. So I took the, basic quilting classes a few years later after I had, read up online, watched. YouTube wasn't a big thing at that point. I know that makes me sound really old, but yeah. So YouTube wasn't a big thing when I first got started. So it was mostly, books and, whatever I could find online. There wasn't much. But I read, I studied, I practiced, and then I took the, built-in courses. That was so much fun. At that point, I was a mom to a few kids, and it was fun to get out of the house. And so, once a week, just go play with women, or other people, and not have to, it got me out of the house for a few minutes, which was fun. You need your break sometimes. So anyway, I was so into the cake thing and into the Wilson classes that I actually applied to be a teacher, an instructor, and so I did that for a year or two, a couple of years. I'm not sure how long, but it was a while that I was a Wilson instructor, and that was really fun. I really found out at that point that I just loved to teach. I love to show people how to do things, and and share what I know, because it's fun. It's fun to share. So then after that, I tried a little local cake decorating competition that was in my town, and they were hyping it up, making it sound like a big deal. So I made this fancy cake, the best thing I could do, and entered it in this competition. And there was really nobody that was even competing in my category. So of course I took first place. And then there were only, 11 entries maybe. And so I took best in show. And at that point I was like, okay, I need to know how I really stack up compared to, more people, not just, 11 people. So then I decided to start looking around at the different competitions that were online, and I found several that I was interested in attending actually, and I ended up coming across the Oklahoma State Sugar Art Show, and it was it was the exact theme that went along with the cake that I thought this would be really cool for a competition piece, and so it fit so perfectly. I called my husband and I said, you know what, I've just got to do this. And so I did, and I had about 2 months to pull everything together and get it all ready and get out there, and I ended up taking third runner-up that year in Oklahoma. And then I went the next year and I took fourth runner-up. And so the cake that I think I'm most known for is my Love Letters cake. A lot of people have seen that one, and every time I talk to someone that has seen it, it's like, oh, that was the most amazing cake. It was such a beautiful story and everything. So, yeah, that's the cake I'm most known for. I went on to do Ultimate Cake Off once, and it was fun. Didn't win, but it was fun. And then from there, I started CakeFu. I moved to Las Vegas from Utah. They didn't have the cottage laws that they have in Utah, and I didn't want to leave my kids at home while I went and worked. And oh, by the way, I have 6 kids. Yes, I have a lot of kids. And so I didn't want to leave them at home. So I decided that it would be a good idea to start something that I could do at home, but still cake related. And that's, you know, where CakeFu came about. So anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed the CakeFu trainings. I know I love them, and all the feedback that I get from them is mostly positive. So I really appreciate all of you guys that come in and support what we're doing here and enjoy the trainings. So anyway, that's me. So today we are going to do a pumpkin cake that's going to have kind of a fun little face on it, not your average, you know, triangle eyes and stuff. We're going to kind of make them a little more human. I don't know. We'll see how it turns out, because I have kind of a little bit of an idea in my head, but I don't have it written down. I don't have it sketched out. So we're just kind of going to wing it today and see how it goes. And I'm going to try and get this all done within the hour. So yeah, we'll see if I can do it. It's kind of my little cake challenge, I guess. So we are going to sculpt this cake first. I didn't make this cake, just so you know. I had a lot going on this week, and you know, getting kids ready for school, costumes and parties and the works. We ended up buying this from Layers Bakery here in town. So thank you, Layers. You guys are awesome for yeah, pulling me out of a bind. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start, and we're going to kind of just round this. We don't want it perfectly round because, you know, we want it to look, you know, more realistic. So we're just going to start cutting. You want to make sure you use a nice sharp knife. Some people use serrated. I have this really awesome knife. I believe it is like a meat carving knife, and it's super sharp. It's by Forstner. Love Forstner. So yeah, that is my choice of knife for this kind of project, because it cuts really well. Okay, and there is some filling in this. Usually when we do a sculpted cake, you don't do a lot of filling, but we couldn't be picky with things. So we just kind of, oh my God, we've got. Okay. So now we've got kind of a round top. And if you look at a pumpkin, they've always got these indents on top. I'm just going to use a little knife, and we're going to cut the top a little bit. If you don't like the angle, change it. If you think it's not good enough, change it. So it's better to take off a little and keep going than to take off too much and not be able to, fix things. Okay, so now we're going to do the bottom. I need a, sorry. Alright, cut it down around the bottom a little bit. You don't want to go too far in, you don't want your pumpkin falling over, but the bottom of it should end up, this is an 8-inch cake, by the way. So it's an 8-inch by just about 8 inches tall. So it's going to be pretty squared as far as height and width go. And so on the bottom, you're going to bring it in maybe like an inch on each side, you know, all the way around. So it ends up being about, I'd say about 6 inches, you know. You don't want to carve in too much. But like I said, start a little at a time. Keep going until it gets to be what you want it to be. Okay? I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we'll clear this off. Just gotta clean up as you go. Makes life easier. Although I throw all that out the window once I start decorating. Oh, it makes such a mess. Anyway, so there's that. Okay, so now we have a fairly round shape. I mean, we don't want it to be too round because then it's not going to look like a pumpkin. Right now, it kind of looks a little more like apple shape or orange, you know, something like that. We need to get, you know, if you look at a pumpkin, it's got lines that go down. So we're going to carve in some lines. I'm going to use my little knife for that part, just because I think it would work well. You could use a large knife also if you prefer. I feel like I have a little bit more control over it when I'm doing a smaller knife. Okay. And don't be too afraid to go a little bit more extreme on the, you know, on the depth of it, because you're going to be adding frosting and fondant, and so, you know, it's going to end up losing a lot of its shape. So, and don't worry about cutting pretty far into it. Okay, so we're going to come here, we'll do this one here. Just do a few all the way around. It doesn't have to be uniform. In fact, I don't really want it to be uniform. I want it to have some character, like pumpkins do. Not very often you find a perfect pumpkin. And anyway, who wants a perfect pumpkin? It's all about Halloween and the interesting, the, you know, Halloween's all about weird and different. Okay. And just keep on cutting away. Okay. And down at the bottom, if you'll notice, I cut a little bit more down at the bottom so that it has a little bit of that, you know, curved look. Otherwise, it's going to look a little more flat. Okay, and another one here. Okay. All right, and then we'll do one more, but we're going to do this one a little more shallow, just because I think this is where we're going to put the face. That sounds good to me, right? Okay, so we're going to do a little bit at the top, and then a little bit at the bottom, and we're going to leave the rest. We're not going to worry about carving out the middle, because we want to have a fairly smooth surface to do our face. Okay. All right. And our face will be just kind of right there somewhere. Okay. Now we're ready to go for the frosting. This piece doesn't want to come off. Okay. You want to make sure that you don't have crumbs all over the place. Clearly, you don't want to have too big of a mess. Okay. Okay. And this filling is kind of sticky, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Okay, so now we're going to put on some frosting. The frosting that I have today is a, I was planning on making the cake, and it's, you know, like I said, it got away from me. So I had actually made the frosting. I had planned to make a pumpkin cake for the pumpkin, which sounded, you know, appropriate. So I made a cream cheese frosting with cream cheese maple frosting. So it's going to be tasty. May not go perfectly with, I don't know, does blueberry and maple go well? I would think so. Okay, I'm going to mix it up a little bit because we had some air bubbles work their way into it. Alright. If you have your mixer close by, you can just turn on your mixer on slow speed and mix it just a little bit. That'll get the air bubbles out for the most part. Make sure it's low speed, you don't want to whip it too high. You can go for a long amount of time, just I would keep it on low speed so you don't get those air bubbles in there. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal anyway when you're going to put fondant on a cake because, you know, you do want it to be as smooth as you can, but a little bit of air bubbles is not going to be a huge problem. Okay, so with a sculpted cake, it's a little bit harder to get the frosting where you want it to go. With a, you know, a nice smooth rounded cake, you're gonna, you know, you probably have practiced enough that you can get a pretty smooth finish and get nice crisp edges and everything. But it's a little harder to do when you've got a sculpted cake. Oh, there's some junk here. Okay. Okay, we're going to take the frosting in these corners. We're going to kind of set it on the side of the corner and kind of mash it into the middle and then pull outwards a little bit and kind of smear it around that way, kind of wiggling around. You don't want to pick up too many crumbs. And although this is a crumb coat, so it's not the end of the world if you see some crumbs. There you go. And by the way, this cake is pretty chilled. It's been in the freezer for a little while, so that it's got some, you know, it's nice and firm, which is what we need for right now. Okay, so you can see it kind of coming together a little bit. Let's see if I can hurry up a little bit. It's kind of like talking and work at the same time. Okay. Okay. Let's keep on going around. Okay. Also, if you guys have any questions along the way, we're going to do the question and answer as we go, just so that I don't know if we'll have time at the end to stop and do the question and answer. So if you have any questions along the way, I have Bobby here. He's taking questions, and he'll ask them to me if you have any questions.
We already have one.
So, okay.
It says, did you ever try to bake layers of cake in different diameters so you don't have to carve so much and you get a much rounder shape?
Yes, I have done that with round cakes before, and it works pretty well. Like I said, we started off with these cakes were actually already kind of put together and stacked already and filled and everything. So I couldn't really, you know, pick and choose what sizes I wanted each layer to be. But if you started off with like a 7-inch on the bottom, do a couple layers of 8, and then another 7 on the top. You could even go to a 6, but you just have to make sure that there's enough room, you know, when you angle up, that you're going to have enough cake to do what you want to do. But yes, definitely, I have done that many times, and it works well. But with this one, you know, all my scraps can be Of course, your scraps can be reused, made into cake pops, or just let your kids eat them like mine like to do. I hardly ever get cake pops in the end because my kids, when they come home from school, do you have any cake scraps? In fact, my little boy, he's 4. Whenever I have cake scraps, he gets so excited he calls them cake craps. So we have some cake craps. It's pretty cute. Okay, so we're not going to worry too much about getting everything perfectly smooth. We're actually going to come in later on with a kind of a cool little tool that I've made that I will show you guys when everything's covered. We're just about there. A little bit more to go. And usually you'll find also that a buttercream or a Swiss meringue buttercream smooths on a little bit better than cream cheese. Maybe it wasn't the best choice for today's training, but we'll make it work. Okay. You just want to make sure you've got a good coat all the way around.
I have another question if you're ready.
Okay, sure.
It says the last time I put in let me start over. The last time I put cake in the freezer to firm up, I ended up with a major air bubble under the fondant. Was it because of the freezing or did I have another issue?
Well, okay, so it's not technically the freezing that's the problem, it's the moisture that comes from freezing it. If you live in a more humid place than we do, that's going to be an issue for you. It's never really an issue here in our dry desert in Vegas. So, yeah, if it's a problem, if moisture is a problem in your area, I would just refrigerate. I probably wouldn't freeze it. It's, and it depends on the style of cake that the type of cake that you're baking. I'm trying to think of any good solutions for you. You want to bring it back to room temperature before you do a lot of, covering, but then you want it to be firm. So, I would suggest refrigerating it. That's definitely. Also, when I make a cake, I will stack the cake. Okay, first of all, I bake the cake. I let it cool completely on a rack. Then I will wrap it and stick it in the refrigerator and let it get firm. And then I will fill and stack my cakes. And, I'll fill and stack my cakes. And then from there, I actually put it, I don't put it back into the refrigerator right away. I give it about, 15, 20 minutes to just kind of sit and rest a little bit. And I think that really helps. This is after I fill it, before I frost it, before I put any buttercream on. So I'll put the filling on the cake and let it rest for a little bit. There are some people that will compress it. They'll set something on top of it to kind of push out any air bubbles. That's something you could work into your system. I don't worry too much about that. Like I said, we don't have a lot of humidity here, and so the moisture thing's not a real issue. But anyway, so let it set for a little while, and then about 15-20 minutes later, I will come back and frost it, and then I will put it back into the refrigerator, and so it can firm up so I can cover it with the fondant. So.